One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
He's the most immature president we have ever had. Instead of doing something to stop the health care crisis, is threatening to hurt countless hardworking Americans. Let me repeat the quote Donald Trump said yesterday. We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible. They're bad for them and irreversible, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things they like, cutting programs they like. Donald Trump says it loud and clear. That's one thing about him. He is using the American people as pawns, threatening pain on the country as blackmail. Well, that's not going to work. The American people, it's so easy to see through those tactics. They know this is the Trump shutdown. They know Republicans control the presidency, the Senate, and the House. And what is done during the shutdown will fall squarely on the Republicans' back. Donald Trump even says it. He says he is going to close down all these things people want. It's going to fall right on his back. The American people will know who's doing it, and he's going to have to recoil from it, just as they have done so many cuts already, even before October 1st. And they had to back off on many of them, some because of the courts, but some because of public outcry, such as the huge cutbacks they made in the VA. Well, Democrats' positions hasn't changed. We're willing, ready, and able to negotiate. We're ready to reopen the government today. We've made our position clear about how to move forward. Surely, we can come together and agree we need to fix health care, and that needs to happen now, as people are getting these incredible increases, and within a few weeks they're going to have to say what new health care, if they'll even keep their health care or have to cut it back or do something else that hurts them because they don't have the money. If Republicans work with us and fix America's health care crisis, the shutdown could go away very quickly. And that's what Democrats want, to end this now, fix health care now. It's the right thing to do for the American.
And we're also dealing with the social media, which we didn't do enough of, frankly, in the past. And that was a mistake, and we're trying to rectify it.
And I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
A few moments later.
On this vote, the yeas are 47, the nays are 53. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to.
These people are an absolute joke. An absolute joke. They've turned our government into the Benny Hill show. AOC actually coming out there and saying, negotiate with me. I'm sorry, the only thing I'd negotiate with you is whether you'd make my gin and tonic correctly. There's nothing else I'd ever want to negotiate with AOC. She's an absolute nutcase. And how must Chuck Schumer feel that AOC is out there on television telling people, come see me, I'm the negotiator? No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. What we're seeing right now is a complete cavalcade of insanity. And they tried to do something else, and it failed again. And they're getting desperate because they know at any minute their maker, the executioner, is getting his blade ready. I mentioned it to you last night, and earlier Russ Vought came out and said something. He says roughly $18 billion in New York City infrastructure projects have been put on hold to ensure funding is not flowing based on unconstitutional DEI principles. More info to come from DOT. So he's not waiting. He has already sharpened the blade, and it's just a matter of time. It is not an if, it is a when. And these Democrats are just at his whim. Mike Johnson, see, this thing has come up where they're saying, no, we never said that we wanted illegals, newcomers, to have insurance. No, we never said that.
Chuck Schumer was in the Oval Office with me, 48 hours ago. We were there. The president, as a strong leader, he brought all of us in, all four leaders, Thune and Schumer and myself and Hakeem Jeffries. And the president said, make your case. What is it you want? And Chuck Schumer repeated in that meeting what he put on paper. The counter proposal that he filed, everyone can go read it for themselves, would add $1.5 trillion in new spending on a 7-week stopgap measure. We're not doing that. He wants to give health care to illegal aliens again. We're not doing that. He wanted to claw back $50 billion that our Republican Big Beautiful Bill put in to prop up rural hospitals. Now, people say, why would he do that? I thought he was for health care. Well, a lot of those rural hospitals, most of them are in red states. So I don't know. I don't know what his motivation is, but we can't do it.
All right. So Mike Johnson said something there, and I'm a complete advocate for people looking things up themselves. Don't believe things you hear on television. Don't believe things you hear from podcasters or anybody else. Go look it up. It's very simple. If people take the time and put in the effort to look things up, the truth will set them free. Case in point, as he just said, go look it up. So what did I do? I went and looked it up. There it is, straight from the Democrat proposal, image 2, OBB table of contents, title 7, subsection B, repealed in the Democrat proposal. Image 3, actual text of one big beautiful bill section ending health care for newcomers, repealed in the Democrat proposal. These things are going to look kind of funky if I open them up in here. But if you go look at them yourself, and you can just go, let me see if this one shows up. Yeah, this one, wait a minute, let me see if I can reduce this so that you guys can see it. And there you can see it. Where'd it go? Alien medical Medicaid eligibility, they put it back in. So it's there if people want to read it. If you actually want to go see and determine for yourself, so you're armed with the information. I didn't have time to do show notes, but I'll put it up in the show notes so you guys can see it and everybody can understand. These people are full of crap. They're going on television and looking in a camera and lying their butts off. Lying their butts off to their constituents. It's actually sickening to hear what these people are saying out there and how they're saying it with such conviction. Here is the other picture of that. Let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger. And you can see it says alien Medicaid eligibility. They can't get away from it. They actually put it on paper and submitted it. So if they put it on paper, submitted it, went into the Oval Office, which you know there's a transcript of, wait till that drops. Wait till that transcript drops and they tell everybody, here's what they said. Then everyone's going to know, if the people who care, that the Democrats have been completely lying the entire time. Absolutely just lying out their behinds about all of this. And you know how they say all these people aren't going to get paid? Well, Rick Scott, senator here from Florida, has said if people aren't getting paid, Congress and the Senate shouldn't get paid either. Makes sense. You're a government employee. So at this point, you shouldn't be getting paid. Oh, but wait, not so fast, my friends. They don't want to give up their money. They are above you. They're above anybody here who may be impacted. Just want to prove that to you for a second here. Democrat Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego, who is still getting paid during a shutdown that he voted for, shamelessly says it's not feasible for him to miss a paycheck. But it's okay to take paychecks away from military and benefits away from veterans and others. And here's an actual quote, not by a right-leaning site, but actually by NBC. Some lawmakers said they can't afford missing a pay period. I'm not wealthy. This is a quote. I am not wealthy and I have 3 kids. I would basically be missing, mortgage payments, rent payments, child support, Senator Ruben Gallego told NBC News. So it's not feasible for me. It's not going to happen. I didn't come here to Washington to have my pay docked. But I'll vote for other people to lose their money. If there's anything that needs to be passed around today, it's that. This bit of hypocrisy should destroy the Democrat Party. Completely destroy it. Have at it. Do what you need to do. This needs to be passed around. This needs to be shared en masse to let these people know, I'm talking about the Democrats, that these people don't care about you. You are merely pawns in their game. I can't do without my pay. That's for those people. I got a mortgage and I got kids. Well, do you think the constituents who might be hurt by a shutdown have exactly the same things? The same responsibilities? But no, not me. Not me. I'm a senator. That's why I ran for office. I get perks. There's benefits. I get all kinds of fringes. But because, I'm a senator, I got bills. And I got bills to pay. I got kids to feed. But you voted against keeping the government open. That's different. You cannot be a Democrat without being extremely hypocritical. It's all about do this for you, but me, it's got to be a little bit different. And it's time people realize that. It's time that the reason why they say there's elites and there's classes and the poor people can't afford their health insurance is because they don't care. As long as they get theirs, they're fine. And they govern that way and they live that way. And worse, they think that way. I ain't like you. I have a senator position. I get to feed my wife and kids and pay my mortgage and your rent, meaning a second property. I just happened to realize that. It went off in my head here. Wait a second. I would basically be missing mortgage payments, rent payments, more than one, child support, and the 3 kids. Hey, Ruben, someone should do an interview with you. How many mortgage payments do you have? How many rental payments do you have? How much you paying in child support? You know, I don't want to pry into your personal life, but you're telling other people they should do without. You're a hypocrite. And people should call you out on it. And they should call all these Democrats out on it, including AOC. Come negotiate with me. I don't want, there's nothing for me to negotiate with you. That's the problem the Democrats are having right now. They think they're in a negotiation. And they're not. They're in a begging situation. They keep saying, well, you know, he's got to come meet with us. I don't have to come meet with you. I have all the cards. You have nothing. Oh, that's right. You're going to try social media to try and change public opinion. Not going to work. You've already called us xenophobes, homophobes, racists. None of it's worked. What makes you think this is going to work? Because you think people, oh, wait a minute. You're going to have insurance companies send out these fake letters to people telling them we're going to blow up your insurance. These people are devious, and you have to understand that. Completely understand what they plan on doing to the American people. Given a chance, if these people are ever allowed to be in power again, this country will not survive. This should be showing you that we can never let these people in power again. This should be all the evidence you need as you're watching them lie and obfuscate and pretend that it's not me, it's you. Should tell you, never let these people get in a position of power ever again. They will ruin us. They will take this country down, and they will smile while doing it. That's how bad it is. All right, so Karoline Leavitt is coming up in 10 minutes or so. Undoubtedly, this press conference is going to be probably extremely bombastic. She is probably going to get peppered with questions. I bet a lot of them will be Russ Vought oriented. I think some people will probably bring up Project 2025. And then, of course, the liberal media has probably got their marching orders in place to go put as much pressure on the Republicans as they possibly can. Don't ever, they've probably been told, don't even position this as it's something the Democrats did. And I saw the best graph ever. And the best graph said, here are all the votes to continue, and here are the votes to shut it down. And it was all red and all blue. And so it's very clear. I don't understand how they can get into the media and say that the Republicans are shutting it down when all the Republicans except one, Rand Paul, all the Republicans except one voted for it. So how possibly could the Republicans be held liable for getting the government shut down when they all voted to keep it open? The other people voted to shut it down. That is some serious propaganda going on right there. All right, so 1 o'clock, she's coming up, and there's stuff going on at the Senate that I can bring up, and I've got some video here for you to let's look at and talk about, because there's been so much going on. Let me play a little bit of this press conference that was this the press conference? Yeah.
So y'all been going back and forth. Y'all had the leadership.
No, not the press conference. It's J.D. Vance this morning on Fox and Friends.
What are they asking for? Because you guys made it very clear. You just want a clean CR. What do they want in return?
Yeah, so Lawrence, I want to answer that, but let's step back for a second, because I think it's important for the American people to realize that the far left faction of Senate Democrats shut down the government because we wouldn't give them hundreds of billions of dollars for health care benefits for illegal aliens. It's actually not even all Senate Democrats. I was really gratified to see that a few of the moderate Senate Democrats voted with Senate Republicans last night to keep the government open. This is basically Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, he's worried he's going to get a primary challenge from AOC, and so he's shutting down the people's government to give in to sort of the left-wing coalition and their party. And it's craziness, and people are going to suffer because of it. I mean, people who benefit from low-income food programs are going to suffer because of this. If you're flying today, I hope, of course, you arrive safely and on time, but you may not arrive on time because the TSA and the air traffic controllers are not getting paid today. Our military is not getting paid today, starting today. And obviously, the longer this drags on, the worse that it is for the American people. So we are where we we are. And to your point, what do Senate Democrats ask for? Well, initially, they said that they wanted to shut down the government because Donald Trump was a dictator. Okay, that's absurd. Then they said they wanted to shut down the government because they wanted hundreds of billions of dollars for health care benefits for illegal aliens. That, of course, is also absurd. And now they're saying they just want to work on ensuring that Americans have low-cost health care. Well, I agree with them. Of course, we all want to ensure that Americans have low-cost health care, so let's work together on that. You don't shut the government down. You don't take the government as a hostage because you want to engage in a negotiation about health care costs. Let's do that negotiation, but let's do it in the context of actually opening the government and ensuring those essential services are actually provided to the American people.
Speaker Johnson has a video running continuously outside of his office, and he also posted it on social media because the Democrats, when you go in the Wayback Machine, they were always the one that thought that these shutdowns were reckless. Listen to this, Mr. Vice President.
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
If the government shuts down, it will be average Americans who suffer most. A government shutdown means seniors who rely on Social Security could be thrown into chaos.
Families will be hurt. Farmers will be hurt.
It's the service members who will work without a paycheck. It's the firefighters who will be furloughed.
This shutdown, you know who's going to feel the pain? You know who it hurts? You. Everyday people and the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
Well, then why didn't they vote to continue the funding?
That's such a good point, and I see that Mike Johnson has apparently learned from the trolling master, President Donald Trump, by putting that video outside of his office, just throwing the Democrats' words right back at him. But it's actually such an important point. You don't shut the government down because you have a policy disagreement. These are two separate questions. There are essential services that have already been appropriated, where we've already agreed, you know, we want our military to have a certain amount of payment. We want air traffic control to have a certain amount. We want to ensure that a certain number of people are able to access food benefits. You don't shut down the government because you have a policy disagreement about a totally separate issue. And that's what the Democrats have done. And it really is astonishing to go back 20 years. I mean, pretty much the entire time, guys, that I've paid attention to American politics, I have seen Democrats stand before the American people and say, you don't shut down the government because you're not getting what you want. And here they are last night, the far left faction of Senate Democrats, they shut down the government. Why? Because they're not getting what they want. And what makes it extra preposterous, guys, if you actually listen to what they say that they want to ensure this, it's a premium support program under Obamacare that they want to keep going. Well, that premium support program doesn't even expire until next year. So why are you shutting down the government on October the 1st because of a program that doesn't even expire for another few months? Let's talk about it. Let's negotiate. Let's do what you do in Washington, D.C. Don't shut down the government because you don't get what you want. That's exactly what Senate Democrats have done in this case.
So let's just put up a full screen. You mentioned some of it, of the potential effects of the government shutdown. Mass furloughs, federal employees and active duty military members don't get paychecks. We have travel delays. You mentioned TSA, Social Security and SNAP and WI and WIC applications, delays in Medicare and Medicaid payments, some VA services and career counseling. So these are some of the things that will happen. Smithsonian could be closed, National Zoo. I hope someone feeds the animals, but we're not going to be able to see the animals. Can we talk about another thing that could be happening? Could Democrats begin to crack? Now, Rand Paul's on his own planet for some reason, doesn't want to vote for anything, but Fetterman, Masto, Cortez Masto, as well as Angus King, all voted with the Republicans in the Senate where he used to work. Are you hearing there could be other Democrats who don't want to go through this before the weekend and vote with you?
Yeah, Brian, I think that there will be. And if you look, frankly, when I talked to the president and our legislative team yesterday afternoon, I thought we would get 53, 54 votes. We got 55 votes because, again, that moderate faction of the Senate Democrats recognizes this is just an unreasonable position. You're not going to shut down the government because you disagree about a funding program that doesn't even expire for another few months. So I think what's going to happen is that as the political pressure builds and as we continue to have these negotiations, you're going to see more and more Democrats come to the side of reason and reopen the government. But look, I'd offer right now to the Senate Democrats, I'm happy. I will go to the Capitol right now to talk to Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats about premium support for the Affordable Care Act, but only only after they've reopened the government. You can't reward this exercise in hostage taking, which is what we would be doing if we allowed the government opening to be conditional on the Democrats' policy disagreements. So we're going to negotiate with them. We, of course, want to lower health care costs for the American people. Look, we inherited this economy from the Biden administration. We know that health care costs were way too high under the Biden administration. By the way, it's one of the reasons why the president announced yesterday that we're lowering prescription drug costs for all Americans by forcing Europeans and other countries to pay their fair share so that Americans can pay lower costs. So we obviously care a lot about lowering healthcare costs for Americans, but we're not going to engage in negotiation with hostage takers, which is exactly what the Democrats have done. Now, I think, Brian, it was you who listed off some of the problems that come along with the shutdown. Let me add another one. This is October. We are entering hurricane season all across the southeastern part of our country. Flood insurance for a lot of the people who are suffering from hurricanes or could suffer from hurricanes is going to disappear because the government is shut down. Let's reopen the government. Let's fix some of the core issues that exist for our country. And then let's negotiate about the Democrats' health care policy ideas, which we're happy to do, but only when the government is open.
Well, Mr. Vice President, one of the lies that continues to be told is that they're not giving funding to illegals' health care. Can you explain to our audience why that's not true?
Yeah, so this is a Democrat talking point. They say we're not actually trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens, and here's why it's not true. There are two Biden-era programs that explicitly gave the taxpayer health care money to illegal aliens that we turned off when President Trump took over in January. Program number one is there's a lot of emergency health care at hospitals that are provided to illegal aliens. That was funded by the federal government. We turned off that funding because, of course, we want American citizens to benefit from those hospital services, not to be taxed and then to have those hospital services go to illegal aliens. The second of which is the Biden administration gave mass parole to millions upon millions of illegal aliens, and then they simultaneously made those parolees eligible for health care benefits funded by taxpayers. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, President Trump and congressional Republicans turned off that money to health care funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to turn it back on. And in their initial proposal, the first thing that they put out to reopen the government, they actually turned that money for health care benefits for illegal aliens back on. So it's not something that we made up. It's not a talking point. It is in the text of the bill that they initially gave to us to reopen the government. It's preposterous for them to run away from it now. But look, let's set that all to the side. Let's open up the government. Let's negotiate on all of these health care policy issues. Obviously, we're not going to support health care benefits for illegal aliens, but we will work with them to lower health care costs for American citizens if they're willing to do so.
President Trump, he shared some pictures from the Oval Office meeting with Chuck Schumer and with Hakeem Jeffries, with Speaker Johnson and with Thune. And we wanted to ask you about any insight into that meeting, because the last shutdown, Mr. Vice President, was 35 days. Americans can't go, here are the pictures, Americans cannot go that long without getting a paycheck or being furloughed. So can you give us some insight into what they talked about, maybe how we can come to a compromise?
And the hats, the Trump trolling them with 28 hats.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. That's the most important part. There were also the Trump 2028 hats, which I think made the majority or the minority leader in both the House and the Senate very uncomfortable. But look, it was the four of them plus me and the president, and we were having a very good conversation about health care policy. But the president finally sort of threw up his hands and said, guys, let's absolutely work on this health care policy disagreement. We want to fix this issue for the American people, but we're not going to be taken hostage. We're not going to shut down the government and then give you everything that you want. Let's negotiate, but we're not going to reward this behavior. You have to remember, their first proposal about a week ago was to give a bunch of health care money to illegal aliens, and then they came back to us and said, okay, no, we don't have to do that. Let's do this other thing. You don't do a negotiation like that. You don't take the American economy hostage and then tell the President of the United States, give us everything that we want or we're going to shut down the people's government. It's ridiculous. And look, we had, again, a good conversation, but a conversation where I think they still refuse to acknowledge that their negotiating tactic was unreasonable. That if you take Hakeem Jeffries' words or you take Chuck Schumer's words, what they have said for literally, in Chuck Schumer's case, decades, is that you don't shut the government down over a policy disagreement. Now that's exactly what they've done. Let's get back to rationality, open up the government, and then we can sit down and talk.
All right, so let me unpack a little bit about what he said there, because it's important that this is explained to you, and it's important that you have the ability to go look this up yourself and understand specifically what J.D. Vance just said. So in regards to this thing that they're trying to bury and they don't want to talk about, it is the PWORA. This is the name for it, PWORA, P-R-W-O-R-A. And what the PWORA means, the PWORA is basically, as I looked it up here, the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. And what that did was it specifically said they can't give them any money. And so lately, what's been going on here, let me find this here so I can show it to you. Where is he? All right. This is what they're trying to do. House Minority Leader claims federal laws bars taxpayer-funded health care for newcomers, blaming Trump for a government shutdown. This is very misleading. Emergency. This is the key. Emergency Medicaid, which is permitted under the 1996 PRWORA, funds emergency care for newcomers. The CBO projects $40 billion in Medicaid and CHIP costs from 2024 to 2034. So they're specifically lying. They're saying we don't want any more money. We just want to make sure that you start paying all of this stuff. You need to pay for the emergency room for Medicaid, which they are permitted to use at that point. And so obviously what they have been using is the emergency room as their personal doctor's office. They go to the emergency room for everything. And because they go to the emergency room, they think it's covered under that 1996 Act. And President Trump's like, we are not going to fund that. So when they're saying that you're taking away Medicaid from all the people and everything else, it's an absolute lie. They have abused the system, and they tell me, have you heard anybody on the left talk about the PRWORA? Have you even heard it before I mentioned it to you? Because that's what they're relying on. And the only way you would know is if people actually say those words. Even J.D. Vance, as he was just saying, they don't tell people what's actually in this bill. That's why the Democrats are such liars. Oh, we're not asking for any more money. We're not asking for any more funding. Yeah, well, he took that out. You want it put back in so that you could use that as a loophole to get the newcomers whatever they need. So right now they're... Hold on, he's talking. The room is live. Everybody is in there waiting for Karoline Leavitt to come out. It's 1:03, obviously. She's a little bit late, so rather than get into the next part of the show, I'll take some comments right now as we wait for her to come out, because I don't want to begin talking or have another video play and she walks out. But I just wanted you to be very clear. You guys can go ahead and look this up yourself. And really get some information on this thing called the 1996 PRWORA. That's the name of it. And it's the, let me just bring this up again. Where is it? The Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act. That's what it's called. Also, Tim Burchett posted this. When the Democrats tell you they're not getting government health care, show them this. This is the House Budget Committee, where they're looking to spend $8.4 billion in health care for newcomers in California alone. Your money. So the complete fraud that they're perpetuating on the American people can easily be determined and easily verified. Just have to do the work. And the reason why I'm saying it this way is because I'm pretty sure you're hearing it from friends and family that they're going to cause it's all a lie. It is a grandiose lie with nothing other than to make people's emotions get pushed, pulled, tugged. Oh, I'm sorry, people are going to lose this. No, they want it for the newcomers. They don't care about anything else. It's amazing to me at this point how little they care about Americans. Unbelievable. It is jaw-dropping once you start looking and getting the information. Let's see. Let's take some comments. Wait a minute. I got some information here from SV. The French now want to go to war with Russia. Good luck with that. Hold on, SV. I'm looking at pulling this up. What do you got? Okay. So Hung Kao was advanced as the Secretary of you guys have heard this guy. He's pretty cool. U.S. Senate advances the confirmation of Hung Kao as Undersecretary of the Navy. He's about to be formally confirmed. I like him. He's a good guy. All right, so let me take some comments while we are waiting. Let me put this back up so we can see when she comes out, and we can talk about some of this stuff because it's getting pretty crazy out there. Stop calling them newcomers. Are you that weak, Barry? I guess I'm really weak. I'm so weak that I understand that I'm on someone else's platform who chooses us not to say that. So yeah, I guess I'm that weak. You're lucky SB let you stay after that one. Pray that God's guardian angels are around Karoline today because the communist media will go after her with full of... You're right with that. Thank God for President Trump. Yeah. Yes, Roosevelt is active briefing at the House GOP on how far he's planning on going with firing people. So that may be why she's delayed. Roosevelt, who I've told you is the executioner as far as the budget, is meeting right now, 1 o'clock. He has a meeting with the House GOP. Let's see what here. No freebies. The Democrats are truly disgusting and they hate Americans. Absolutely. Love this government shutdown. It should stay this way. They don't do anything anyway. I don't know about you, but I slept fine last night. My days are fine. I don't really care if the government stays shut down. It's funny. One of the problems they're probably having is with each passing day, how many Americans actually feel any sort of pain with the government being shut down. I'd love to know the percentage of people who have any sort of pain right now. And that'll tell you how little we need a lot of this stuff. You know, one of the things that's really important when we talk about this is if there are such things as essential and non-essential, and if it goes to a shutdown, the non-essential go away, then why do we need the non-essential? What is it about this government that there's a whole bunch of, quote, non-essential agencies and employees? That's welfare. That means that you and I are paying for things that are non-essential. I don't know. I'm sure in our personal lives we have things that are non-essential. I may have too many lights in the closet. I may have clothes I don't wear anymore. They're non-essential. If I were to go to sleep at night and take some NyQuil and get into a deep sleep, and Robin went into the closet and grabbed a whole bunch of clothes and threw them away, I'd probably never even know they were gone. She tells me that all the time. She goes, you never even go in the closet. It's not essential. I live in South Florida. As long as I got t-shirts and shorts, I'm good. And then I got to get certain shorts to be on air and stuff. But other than that, I probably have a working wardrobe of about, 10 shirts and 4 or 5 shorts. That's it. And then if we go to dinner, you get dressed up. But other than that, and when I say dressed up, I mean a polo and a pair of dress jeans. That's it down here. Everybody it's just casual 24/7. So half the closet is not essential. It's so funny when we packed to go see Ashley up in North Carolina, like, do we need a sweatshirt? Where are the sweatshirts? Speaking of sweatshirts, we'll talk about that in a second. But back to my point. If it's not essential, why the hell are we using it? Why do we keep having these non-essential things? 2018 was about the border wall, exactly. Somebody said to the trolls, I woke up this morning, the mail was delivered, the bank was open, and the hospitals in the area are open, everything else is open, life is normal. Exactly. I don't care. I don't care. Maybe I should. No, the military's in place. Okay, that's still happening. So we're protected. There's police if you hit 911. That's local. This is how it's supposed to be. Government's supposed to be out of our lives, not in it. Are monthly Social Security checks essential? Yep, that they will be there. You could be wearing tidy whities for all we know. Yeah, I'm not feeling the pain. We're saving lots of money. Keep it shut down. That's the essence of this message and why the Democrats are losing. Because once it goes past a few days and people, you're probably going to have to get reminded that it's being shut down. Imagine that. It's hey, did you know the government shut down? No. And people would be lying if they told you that, oh, it's awful, the government shut down. No, you would know. If it wasn't for work, I wouldn't even own that pair of shoes. Exactly. I mean, it's so funny. When I met Robin, like any other woman, there's a whole bunch of shoes and high heels and this and that and everything. And 7 days a week, maybe 20 the days she's walking around in flip-flops. I mean, Florida, if you've never been to South Florida, it is very, very, very laid back. And everybody likes it. And even the most fancy of restaurants, people are walking in there with shirts and hats and t-shirts and maybe not a t-shirt. You gotta wear a polo or something. But yeah, Perry, play the "I Don't Care" clip. Oh, that's right. I should have been playing that one a long time ago when they started talking about this. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, I mean that truly is it. We don't care. As long as you're not like the CNN guy. What's his name? Jeffrey Tubin. Jeffrey Tubin got caught doing some pleasuring on a Zoom call. That's funny. Social Security got paid. Yep, and veterans got paid. Yes, I did not. Yeah, I did not. All right, looks like they put the screen on. That's their screensavers that are blinking like that. That's not mine. So somebody's got a nice beach scene for their Windows screensaver we can see. It's strange, Barry, those. Okay. It's strange, Barry. Some YouTubers seem to be allowed to speak freely in here. No, they're not. Let me explain this once and for all. Let me just say it the last time so you can repeat it to other people. There are a lot of YouTubers who put up videos but don't run a business. And you can say whatever you want. They're not stopping you from saying it. But just like saying stuff in the chat, they don't have to accept you saying it, and they can just turn your stuff off. And so a lot of people who will say anything and show anything, and then after they get banned, they complain, I didn't do anything, it was free speech, and they're stuck doing something on Twitch. I run a business. I didn't do this for fun. I do this as a business. And because I do it as a business, I have to make sure that I stay within the navigational buoys, as the song says. You got to make sure that you stay between and color within the lines. Otherwise, you're no longer running a business. You're just being something haphazard. And so my idea here is I want to be here for the long run. I want to make sure that this thing, is prosperous for some time to come. I'm trying to build something. And so I am not going to take chances that this business is going to be hurt. So yes, there are some YouTubers, they're not allowed to speak. You can say whatever you want. We're all allowed to say it, as long as you're okay dealing with the ramifications of what you say. And so I know the rules. I've been told the rules. I've been told the ramifications if something you don't follow the rules. There's an entire page of all kinds of where-to-fors and here-to-fors, and if you do this, you do that. You may not get caught today. You may not get caught tomorrow, but maybe next week they end up taking a switch and you're done. And then everybody complains and says it's free speech when it's all spelled out. So if you plan on running a business, you've got to follow the business rules. And that's offline too. Offline, you got to get a business license. You just can't put up a store and just do whatever you want. You got to follow the rules. You just can't, decide you're going to park a camper in somebody's lawn out here. No, the HOA says you can live here. It's your home, but you can't park you can't park a camper. You can't even bring a truck in this neighborhood after 5 p.m. That's the rules. You live by the rules that you accept. So hopefully this is the last time I ever have to explain why do some other people do it. I don't know. They choose to live on the edge. That's the answer. I mean, there is no other answer. People can do what they want as long as they decide that they, 2 pages on YouTube, what to do, what not to do. Yep, exactly. Noobs just don't know. I can't even, another thing with that, just so you understand. No, I won't go into that. I was going to start giving you some numbers. No, I won't go there. I hate that you got to keep explaining yourself. I only take the time to explain it while we're waiting for something to happen, number one. And number two, just so people understand. I understand there are some trolls that try to bait you into saying something. Say it. I'm like, been at this too long to get somebody to do it. And I don't have to explain. I try to give people information, but that's it. All right, so what else we got? Let's see. Rules were meant to be broken. A Democrat told me that, so I always follow the rules. Oh, man, that's crazy. Free speech comes with responsibilities. Yep, it sure does. I am in Studio A today. Okay, so what Joy is saying here. Last night, you saw Studio C. This is Studio A. Studio B, which will become Studio A, I'll have to come up with a different name as we're still building it out and everything, but that's going to be the mother load once we get in there. I'm in, where is that? Okay, I want to take this from Gloria. I'm in senior HUD housing. I went to renew my lease for another year. I stopped to get gas and cash out of the bank. Normal day here in rural Nebraska. Yeah. I don't know anybody who's affected today. None. Sun shining, electricity's on, water's flowing, the pool's 88, 89 degrees. Everything is good. Stop falling for the crap. Let's see what's going on at the hearing. They're having a hearing, by the way, like right now. Who's talking? I want to see if I can see who's talking. Looks like some Democrat. Hold on, let's listen.
Later succumbed to their injuries. That day and those that followed were some of the toughest for all of us. Me personally, my niece was attending that festival. And I remember the overwhelming relief that I felt to learn that she was safe and okay. But I also remember spending time at the reunification center with the families of the missing festival attendees, praying with those families, crying with those families, watching them as they were hoping and praying that their loved ones would return to them. Some were lucky, but many were not. Our city, our entire state of Nevada, felt lost.
I'm not sure who that is. I guess she's one of the senators from Nevada, and I don't know how she's going to tie in October 7th to the shutdown. So I'm just going to continue with what we were talking about.
The Democrats have taken the last vote. Within the last few hours, they voted it down once again, and so there's no other option. Now, it's important to note what they're doing here. They're throwing a fit. They're making partisan arguments. The House did its job. We sent to the Senate a clean CR. What that means, it's a very short stopgap funding measure so that the appropriators in Congress in both parties can continue their work of doing the appropriations bills, 12 separate bills. We've made a lot of progress in that. We just need a little more time because tonight is the end of the fiscal year. Chuck Schumer has refused to give the extra time. Why? Because we won't agree to restore health care to illegal aliens, because we won't agree to give $500 million.
House here today, and I have a very special guest with us, the Vice President of the United States. He'll deliver some remarks and take some questions. First, I just want to share remarks of my own. Democrats in Congress have officially shut down the United States government. House Republicans passed a nonpartisan, clean piece of legislation to extend current government funding until November 21st. But nearly every single Democrat senator voted against this bill. To be clear, this was the exact same bill that Democrats approved 6 short months ago in March, just adjusted for inflation. This is the same kind of clean funding bill that Democrats passed 13 separate times when they held the majority during Joe Biden's administration. So the American people woke up this morning and asked the obvious question: why is the government shut down right now? The answer is pure partisan politics being played by the Democrat Party. The Democrats shut down the government because President Trump and the Republicans will not force American taxpayers to pay for free health care for illegal aliens. America is $37 trillion in debt. We cannot afford to provide taxpayer-funded free health care to illegals who broke the law to enter our country. To put this all into perspective, the Democrats refused to keep the government open over health care to illegal aliens and now have jeopardized critical health care programs for American citizens instead. The Women, Infants, and Children program, community health center funding, Medicare treatment options, and other health programs are now all at risk because of the Democrats rejecting the clean CR. The most vulnerable in our country are being punished because the Democrats want to prioritize illegals over American citizens. And if Democrats actually cared about health care, they would applaud the actions taken by President Trump just yesterday in the Oval Office. He took a bold and massively popular action to improve our healthcare system. He announced the first agreement with a major pharmaceutical company, Pfizer, to lower drug costs for Americans. This is a historical achievement long sought by past Democrat presidents that only President Trump was able to get done. Also yesterday, while the Democrats were whining about health care for illegal aliens, President Trump signed a powerful executive order to supercharge American AI innovation and unlock cures for pediatric cancer patients in the United States. While President Trump took action to lower drug prices and improve the lives and the care of American children with cancer, again, Democrats are fighting to give health care benefits to illegal aliens. The Trump administration is fully committed to lowering healthcare costs and advancing policies that will save American lives. But right now, we need to keep the government open and funded. And individuals and organizations across the political spectrum, across the country, agree with the Trump administration and Republicans. The labor union leader, the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, sent a very blunt message to Democrats over their destructive antics. He said American workers are not bargaining chips. Senators need to stop screwing around and pass the House-passed clean short-term funding bill. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business organization, called to immediately pass the Republican clean CR, saying, quote, shutdowns are harmful to the economy, the American people, and our national security. And even Democrat Senators Cortez Masto and Fetterman acknowledged that their party is betraying the American people with this costly and chaotic Democrat shutdown. Enough is enough. Democrats need to stop sabotaging our country and holding the American people hostage in the country. Democrats need to do their jobs. The American people want the government reopened, and this is proven in a New York Times poll showing that 2 in 3 Americans say the government should not be shut down by the Democrats, even if their absurd demands are not met. The president and Republicans are working very hard to reopen the federal government. The vice president here has been crucial in this effort. We encourage all Americans across the country Call your Democrat senators and encourage them to reopen the government. That's what President Trump and the Vice President want to do. And with that, I will turn it over to our great Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Great. Well, thank you, Karoline, and good afternoon to everybody, and good afternoon to everybody who's watching at home. It's a tough act to follow, but let me just say a few things, and then I'll take a few questions. Number one, Democrats say that they care a lot about lowering health care costs, and yet, when the president took historic action to work with the drug companies to lower prescription drug prices, the Democrats did nothing to help us. In fact, we would have loved to have the Democrats helping us, but they didn't. They talk about doing something. They don't actually do the hard work of making it happen. What they have done instead is to shut down the government because we won't give billions of dollars to health care funding for illegal aliens. That is what has actually happened. To the American people who are watching, the reason your government is shut down at this very minute is because, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of congressional Republicans and even a few moderate Democrats supported opening the government, the Chuck Schumer AOC wing of the Democratic Party shut down the government because they said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for health care for illegal aliens. That's a ridiculous proposition. Let me say two other quick things, and then again, I'll take some questions. Number one, we all understand that Democrats and Republicans have policy disagreements. The Democrats want to do things. Look, when Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries were in here a couple of days ago, they made some suggestions that the president was more than happy to say, yes, let's sit down and talk about how we can solve the health care crisis that we inherited from the Biden administration. But it's one thing to say that we should solve the health care crisis for Americans. It's another thing to say that we're going to shut down the government unless we give the Democrats every single thing that they want, which, as Karoline says, includes giving billions of dollars of taxpayer funding for health care for illegal migrants. That's ridiculous. You don't have policy disagreements that serve as the basis for a government shutdown. Let's have the conversation about how to fix American health care, about how to make health care more accessible. As the president showed, he's more than willing to act on behalf of the American people for this very reason. What you don't do is say, unless you do exactly what we want to do as congressional Democrats, we're taken hostage. And the hostage, it turns out, is critical, essential services that the American people need. Karoline talked about some of it. Let me talk about some more. Our troops are not getting paid starting today because of the Chuck Schumer wing of the Democratic Party. We have people who require food assistance, low-income Americans who require food assistance, who will not get it unless we reopen the government, thanks to Chuck Schumer and his wing of the Democratic Party. We have flood insurance as we start hurricane season in the southeastern part of our country. That flood insurance is going to disappear because of Chuck Schumer and the far left of the Democratic Party. We need to reopen the government. Let's fix America's problems. Let's work together to solve them. But let's reopen the government before we have our negotiation about health care policy. That's what the American people demand, and that's certainly what the President of the United States wants. Let me make one final point. I think a lot of Americans are asking themselves, why did this happen? Why did the Democrats shut down the government despite, as Karoline said, voting on the exact same piece of legislation 6 months ago? And there are a lot of different spins that we can put on it, a lot of different answers that we could give, all of them true. One answer I already gave is that they want to give health care benefits to illegal aliens. That is true. They gave us legislative text that would have undone us cutting off health care benefits for illegal aliens. That's one of the things that they asked for. But the reality here, and let's be honest about the politics, is that Chuck Schumer is terrified she's going to get a primary challenge from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The reason why the American people's government is shut down is because Chuck Schumer is listening to the far-left radicals in his own party because he's terrified of a primary challenge. So I'd invite Chuck Schumer to join the moderate Democrats and 52 Senate Republicans, do the right thing, open up the people's government, and then let's fix health care policy for the American people. Questions?
Mr. Vice President.
That's a lot. Matt Boyle.
Okay. Mr. Vice President, there's two key Democrat lies I would like to get your take on and see if you can address. The first is that you're seeing a number of top Democrat leaders, from Kamala Harris to Chuck Schumer to Hakeem Jeffries, claim that it is a Republican shutdown caused by Trump. The second is that they're out there now claiming that they don't want to give health care to illegal aliens. Can you address both of those lies from the Democrat Party?
Yeah, so on the point that it's a Republican shutdown, look, it's obviously a Democratic shutdown. Just look at the vote totals in the House, look at the vote totals in the Senate, and look at the President of the United States' own action and conduct throughout this crisis. Nearly every single House Republican voted to open the government, Matt. Nearly every single Senate Republican voted to open the government last night, and even to their credit, a few moderate Democrats voted to open the government. That's not a Republican shutdown when nearly every single Senate Democrat votes to shut it down and every Republican voted to open it up. It's just obviously not true. Now, you can disagree about a number of things, but you can't disagree about the obvious fact that Republicans voted to open the government. The president stands ready to sign that opening of the government. We just need a few more Democrats to join us in that effort to open the government. Your final question about illegal alien benefits. Look, the text is very clear, and I even saw, I think it was George Stephanopoulos in an interview with Mike Johnson, did a fact check that was totally rooted in baseless claims. It was basically Democrat propaganda. If you look at the legislative text that they gave us, they tried to turn on two separate provisions that would give health care benefits to illegal aliens. Number one, if you're an American citizen, you've been to a hospital in the last few years, you probably noticed that wait times are especially large, and very often somebody who's there in the emergency room waiting is an illegal alien, very often a person who can't even speak English. Why do those people get health care benefits at hospitals paid for by American citizens? The answer is a decision made by the Biden administration that the Trump administration, working with congressional Republicans, undid. We turned off that money spigot to health care funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats, in their legislative text, want to turn it back on. That's one thing. The second thing, Matt, is we all know that there are various ways in which the Biden administration waived away illegal immigration status. They gave parolees, they gave asylum claims to people who weren't really claiming asylum. And when they waved the magic wand of amnesty, giving millions of people legal status, even though they were in the country illegally, they also gave those people access to health care benefits. So what the Democrats are engaging in is a sleight of hand. They're saying, no. Those weren't illegal aliens who were getting health care benefits, even though everybody, knows they were in the country illegally. It's a lie told by the Democrats that they're not trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens. It's a lie that is obviously untrue if you just look at the text that they gave us, and all you have to do is understand that this is about who benefits. We think the American people's government ought to benefit American citizens. The Democrats are willing to shut it down to benefit illegal aliens. The contrast couldn't be more clear. Peter.
Thank you, Vice President Vance. The big holdup is, of course, that you guys say illegal immigrants are getting taxpayer-funded health care. Democrats say you're lying. That makes it feel like it could be a really long shutdown. Is this going to be a long shutdown?
I don't know. I can't predict what congressional Democrats are going to do, Peter, but I actually don't think it's going to be that long of a shutdown. This is a pure guess from the Vice President of the United States because I think you already saw some evidence that moderate Democrats are cracking a little bit. They understand the fundamental illogic of this. Look, for years, every single one of us, we can remember Barack Obama on the White House lawn. We can remember Chuck Schumer. We can remember, Nancy Pelosi for years. In Chuck Schumer's case, for literally decades, we've heard them say, you don't shut the government down over a policy disagreement. Okay, Republicans think this thing about health care, that thing about health care. Democrats think this thing about immigration. Republicans disagree. Whatever those disagreements are, you don't shut down the government over it. For the first time since the Democrats have been in politics, they're now saying that unless we get every policy item that we demand, we're going to shut down the people's government. They're trying to take a hostage, and we're not going to let them.
And the administration announced today that $18 billion bound for New York transportation projects is going to be frozen so it can't go to DEI programs there. But the timing of this, does announcing that today mean that you guys are going to squeeze Chuck Schumer's home state until he blinks?
Look, I haven't talked to Russ about this morning, but look, I'm sure that Russ is heartbroken about the fact that he's unable to give certain things to certain constituencies. We want to do everything that we can to help the American people, but when the Democrats shut down the government, we have to actually do a little triage to make sure the most critical and most essential services are provided. The government does a lot of things. Of course, Republicans think that the federal government probably does too much, but there are a lot of critical things the federal government does that absolutely all of us would agree need to do. Our troops need to get paid. Our air traffic controllers need to make sure that people are flying safely and on time. We need low-income people to be able to access the food services that are provided by the federal government. There are critical things that need to be saved. We're going to do everything that we can over the coming weeks, if the shutdown lasts that long, to ensure that people get the essential services that they need, despite the fact that Chuck Schumer has shut down the federal government. It's not going to be perfect because we are in a government shutdown. We are going to have to lay some people off if the shutdown continues. We don't like that. We don't necessarily want to do it, but we're going to do what we have to keep the American people's essential services continuing to run.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you for being here. Yesterday, President Trump said, as a result of the shutdown, we'll be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and the Democrats, they are going to be Democrats. Has the administration asked agencies to target federal workers who they believe to be Democrats in these reductions of forces?
We're not targeting federal agencies based on politics. We're targeting the people's government so that as much as possible of the essential services can continue to function. That is the question the president has asked the entire government, is fundamentally, okay, we're in a shutdown. That causes some problems. The troops aren't getting paid. There's nothing that we can do about that while the government is shut down. But there are essential services that we want to make sure as much as possible they still continue to function. That is the principle that's driving us forward during this shutdown. It's going to continue to be the principle that drives us forward. But let's be honest. If this thing drags on for another few days or, God forbid, another few weeks, we are going to have to lay people off. We're going to have to save money in some places so the essential services don't get turned off in other places. That is the reality of the government shutdown that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have foisted upon the administration.
So what did he mean by they're going to be Democrats? He said they're going to be Democrats.
You've laid out a lot of the pain and problems that would come with a Democratic shutdown, and yet in the Oval Office yesterday, the president said that a lot of good could come from a shutdown. So square that circle. Which is it, a Democratic-caused crisis or a Republican opportunity for reform?
Well, I think all the president is saying, Phil, is that he wants to make sure the American people's government functions as well as it can, despite the fact that we're in a shutdown. We're going to have to make things work. And that means that we're going to have to triage some certain things. That means certain people are going to have to get laid off. And we're going to try to make sure that the American people suffer as little as possible from this shutdown. That's what the president is saying, is that, yes, this is a bad thing. Obviously, the president is trying to reopen the government, but we're going to make things work as well as we possibly can, given the constraints that we have.
And then on those policy differences for the discussion and the negotiations to come later, during the Biden administration, Democrats twice voted to expand these Affordable Care Act tax credits, but those were supposed to be temporary and they were slated to expire at the end of the year. As you sort of crack the door open to negotiation at a later date, would the party that ran on defunding Obamacare really negotiate about potentially expanding Obamacare?
Well, Phil, what we've said to the Democrats is that we're willing to have a conversation about how to ensure that Americans continue to have access to health care, and frankly, they should have access to better health care at a lower cost. We inherited a mess of a health care system from the Biden administration. It's why the president has worked so hard on the most favored nation status for prescription drugs. It's why we care so much about lowering the cost of prescriptions and why we're doing everything else. We're willing to have that conversation, but I think it's important to bracket the health care policy conversation because it's separate from the government shutdown. We think that we can open the government and then have the conversation about what best healthcare policy to fit the needs of the American people. That's all we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to accomplish. We've got to reopen the government first. Now, Karoline, I don't know how you do this, how you actually choose people, because I don't know 90% of the names in here. Is it just who's the best dressed? Okay, I really like your shirt. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You are president of the Senate. Can you talk about what you're doing, what the administration is doing to try to get other Senate Democrats to vote to open the government?
Yeah, we're talking to a number of our colleagues, Democratic and Republican, in the Senate. I talked to a number of them last night. The president, of course, is talking to them as well. I think there really are two categories of demands that I've seen privately from congressional Democrats. I think on the one hand, those who are negotiating in good faith are saying, look, we just want to make sure that we're able to have a conversation with the administration about some of the critical needs that we see that need to get fixed over the next few months. We recognize it's kind of absurd, and a lot of them will admit in private that it's kind of absurd to shut down the people's government over these disagreements, but just agree to negotiate with us in good faith on these issues, and of course we're having that conversation with them. Then there's another category, people who say, give us everything we want or we're going to keep the government shut down. We just write those people off because they're not negotiating in good faith. And frankly, we don't need them. We've already got 3 more Democrats last night than I thought we would get. And I think it's because they recognize the illogic of the position of taking the entire American economy hostage because they don't get their policy priorities. So 3 moderate Democrats joined 52 Republicans last night. We need 5 more in order to reopen the government. And that's really where we're going to focus, is how to get those 5 additional Democrats.
Thanks, Mr. Vice President. First 2 questions. Are there plans to meet Democratic leaders again in the coming days, or are you planning on plucking off senators one by one?
So that's the whole question?
No, I got a second question.
Okay, go ahead and ask the second question.
So the president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer.
I saw.
Recently. You've said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders, but what message does that send? Is it helpful to post pictures of Leader Jeffries in a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions, and even, poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop. And I've talked to the President of the United States about that. Now, to your first question, are we negotiating one-on-one? Are we negotiating in groups? Look, I will go to the U.S. Capitol right now and meet with Chuck Schumer or any Senate Democrat if it helps us reopen the government. Most of the conversations, in my experience at least, have been one-off. We're also, of course, relying on some of our Senate Republican colleagues who have good relationships across the aisle. We're going to do whatever we have to do is the answer. And I think it's tough to predict what shape this negotiation is going to take over the next few months. But I feel good about the fact that Democrats already realize privately the fundamental irrationality of their position. I hope that they're going to publicly acknowledge it and reopen the government. The guy in the back, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You responded to a post on X of Chuck Schumer on the House floor back in 1996, railing against illegal immigrants receiving taxpayer-funded benefits. You said Chuck Schumer once recognized that it was disastrous to give illegal aliens rewards for breaking the law. Now he wants to shut down the government unless we reward illegal aliens for breaking the law. Why has Chuck Schumer changed his stance?
That's a good question. Actually, it's a very tough question. Asking me to get in the head of Chuck Schumer is not a place I particularly want to be, but my basic read on it is that the entire Democratic Party, the political leadership, not every Democrat nationwide, but the political leadership of their party has got it into their heads that the only way to be compassionate is to be compassionate to illegal aliens rather than American citizens. If you go back to what Bill Clinton was saying, even Barack Obama in some cases, what he was saying about illegal immigration 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would put them on the MAGA right based purely on their rhetoric around illegal immigration. So I don't know why they've gone so far to the left. I think it's bad for the country. I think it's bad for them politically. But our principle, all I can do is speak for the president that I serve and the country, the administration that I serve right now. We believe that the American people's government exists for the American people. That means the people who have the legal right to be here, and that's why we're fighting to reopen the government. And unfortunately, the Democrats are fighting to shut it down for the benefit of illegal aliens. And I'll take a couple more, and then I'll let Karoline. I'll go back to my day job so Karoline can go back to hers. All right. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just going back to the sombrero, you said that the president's joking, but Hakeem Jeffries says that these memes were racist. What's your response to that? And just if I may briefly go off topic.
Seriously?
Secretary Hegseth yesterday made an edict about no more beardos in the military. Just wondered
Sorry, what did he say?
No more beardos.
Beards.
Oh, sorry, that's my accent. Just wondered your response to that.
I didn't see that particular comment. I thought Pete gave a hell of a speech, and a speech that really is just oriented around returning the American military to the very high standards that it has had for virtually its entire history until Joe Biden came along and decided to lower standards. I think it was bad for our military, and it was bad for our troops. When I was a young United States Marine, I did not have a beard. I am now the vice president, so I get to do what I want to do. But I think Pete's trying to re-implement high standards, and that's a very good thing. On the sombrero thing, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries said it was racist, and I know that he said that, and I honestly don't even know what that means. Like, is he a Mexican-American that is offended by having a sombrero meme? I mean, I saw one of the major TV stations put the meme up and then say, this is AI generated. And he had like the curly animated mustache too. It's like, do you really not realize the American people recognize that he did not actually come to the White House wearing a sombrero and a black curly animation mustache? Like, give the country a little bit of credit. We're all trying to do a very important job for the American people. The President of the United States likes to have a little bit of fun when he's doing it, and I think that's okay. I'll take one more question.
Mr. Vice President, in every previous shutdown, workers have been furloughed, not laid off. So why does the president want to fire some workers and not just furlough them? Why is this shutdown any different?
Well, first of all, we haven't made any final decisions about what we're going to do with certain workers. What we're saying is that we might have to take extraordinary steps, especially the longer this goes on. We're going to have to take extraordinary measures to ensure the people's government operates, again, not perfectly, because it's not going to operate perfectly in the midst of a shutdown, but operate as well as it possibly can. And I think that the Democrats, if they're so worried about the effect this is having on the American people, and they should be, what they should do is reopen the government, not complain about how we respond to the fact that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have shut down the government in the first place. Thank you all. Caroline.
Going to target some benefits, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. See you guys.
Benefits to be cut as well?
All right, guys. Well, let's let the fun continue. The Vice President's a very busy man, and I'm happy to take some more questions. I know there's more news today. Aside from the shutdown, we can focus on the shutdown if you want, but let's go ahead. Kate, why don't you start?
The president talked about doing things that he said were irreversible during the shutdown, cutting vast numbers of people, he said, and cutting programs. Can you specify what exactly he was referring to, what's on the table, and what's going to be cut?
Look, I think the Vice President just referred to this in some of the answers that he gave regarding the layoffs. There are unfortunate consequences to a government shutdown, and the federal government is not receiving any cash at the moment, and so the Office of Management and Budget has been tasked with looking over the receipts and looking over the budget of the entire federal bureaucracy, and as the Vice President said, determining what needs to continue to go out the door and what can we continue to keep running, and what unfortunately is going to have to come to an end. So those decisions are being made, and unfortunately layoffs are very likely, as the Vice President just said, going to be a part of that.
And has the White House had any direct response from Hamas from the peace proposal that was laid out? The president said he would give 3 or 4 days, but is there a hard deadline now, or what are the next steps here?
I will reiterate what the President of the United States said, 3 or 4 days, and I can tell you that there are some very sensitive discussions that are taking place, but I certainly don't want to get ahead of any announcement at this podium. I'm going to let Special Envoy Witkoff and the President of the United States handle that.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. First of all, following up on that, the president said yesterday, I believe, within 3 or 4 days he wanted to hear an answer from Hamas. Is he still sticking by that timeline?
Yes, as I just confirmed.
And then second question is a comment that's gotten a lot of global attention. Senator Dick Durbin, he was set to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Catholic Church. He's since declined accepting it because there has been some controversy. Pope Leo commented on this, and he said that someone who says I'm against abortion, but I'm in agreement with the inhumane treatment of immigrants in the United States, I don't know if that's pro-life. You've been very open about your Catholic faith. How do you respond to that?
I would reject there is inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the United States under this administration. There was, however, significant inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the previous administration as they were being trafficked and raped and beaten, and in many cases killed over our United States southern border. You also look at the inhumane treatment at the hands of some of these illegal immigrants that took place under the previous administration as well. Laken Riley comes to mind, a beautiful American citizen who was killed at the hands of an illegal immigrant. So this administration is trying to enforce our nation's laws in the most humane way possible, and we're upholding the law, and we're doing that on behalf of the people of our country who live here.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. What is the level of concern that the administration has regarding a protracted government shutdown in terms of its impact on the U.S. economy and also its impact on small businesses as well?
Well, look, this government shutdown is no doubt going to impact everyday Americans, and it is the fault of the Democrats that we are in this position. And I know I relayed some programs that will be impacted, the Vice President did as well, but I just want to make sure the American public understand what the Democrats have done to our government and our country. 1.3 million active duty troops will work now without pay. Critical food assistance for low-income women, infants, and children will now lapse. No new mothers or children are allowed to join this critical program because of the Democrats' decision to shut down the government. Telehealth services for seniors and in-home treatment options for Medicare patients will now come to an end. Nearly 50,000 members of the United States Coast Guard are going to have to work unpaid. Over 13,000 air traffic controllers will work without pay, as well as TSA agents, which will very likely create flight disruptions, and pay will now stop for over 150,000 federal law enforcement officers. These are not just numbers and statistics. These are real Americans who have families at home. And I saw some Democrat members today saying they're still going to accept their paychecks because they have 3 kids at home and they have mouths to feed. Well, so do these federal workers who those same Democrats just voted to shut down the government and turn off their pay. And we believe that's very unfair, and it's why the administration wants to see the government reopened.
GDP growth fell by about 0.5 percentage point during the last government shutdown during the president's first term. Are you expecting a similar type of impact on GDP growth related to this potential protracted government shutdown?
Well, look, I think it's dependent upon how long this shutdown continues. So it's dependent on how long it takes Democrats to muster up the coverage, 5 of them, to vote in the best interest of our country, our citizens, and our economy. Eamon.
Thank you, Caroline. Yesterday, your administration took a 5% stake in Lithium Americas and a stake in the mine that they're working on, and you've taken stakes in other companies and revenue streams from other companies. Can you articulate the broader principle here? When does the administration see it as appropriate to demand equity stakes or revenue streams from American companies? And what other companies are you going to be demanding those from?
Well, look, this is a creative solution by the President of the United States to tackle our nation's crippling debt crisis. As I said earlier, we are $37 trillion, trillion with a T, in debt. And not only is the president effectively utilizing tariffs to bring in massive amounts of revenue, and there's billions of dollars coming in every month. I know you know that even because you cover it on CNBC quite well. So the president is focused on how can the United States government make more money? How can we make our country wealthy and rich again? And cutting some of these unique creative deals with companies around the world and here at home is just one way the president is seeking to do that. And I know the Department of Energy just announced this new deal. It's another great deal for the American people and our government.
And on Lisa Cook,
Sure, go ahead.
Lisa Cook, the Supreme Court said today that she's going to be allowed to stay at the Federal Reserve Board until oral arguments in January. Does the president have any personal reaction to that? This has been something he's been very intent on.
Look, we have respect for the Supreme Court, but they're going to hear the actual case and make a determination on the legal argument in January. And we look forward to that because we maintain that she was fired well within the president's legal authority to do so. She was removed from the board, and we look forward to that case being fully played out at the Supreme Court. Reagan.
Caroline, I have one for you on E.J. Antoni and one on the shutdown.
Sure.
CNN reported that Collins and Murkowski declined to meet with E.J. Antoni, raising concerns that his nomination was in trouble. I'm wondering what message Collins and Murkowski are sending to the White House by not meeting with one of the president's nominees.
Well, look, E.J. Antoni remains a great ally of the president and our team. It became clear, unfortunately, that he was not going to have the votes, and so we will be announcing a replacement nominee very soon.
And on the shutdown, I'm just wondering how soon you could see cuts to the federal workplace, and if there's a specific agency that will experience the most cuts or be focused.
Unfortunately, because the Democrats shut down the government, the president has directed his cabinet, and the Office of Management and Budget is working with agencies across the board to identify where cuts can be made, and we believe that layoffs are imminent. They are, unfortunately, a consequence of this government shutdown. Ed.
So you talk about the layoffs being imminent. Is there a percentage then of reduction that the White House is looking for of workforce?
I don't have a specific percentage for you.
What about China, if I could? So China has not made one soybean purchase this year for the United States. I talked to a farmer yesterday who has about 1,000 acres in Iowa and says this is just killing her. Now, the president has been talking to President Xi. Could China not buying agriculture affect a possible meeting with the president? Would he not meet with Xi because China has refused to buy soybeans from the U.S.?
Look, I don't want to speak for the president and make a determination on that from this podium, but what I can tell you is that supporting America's farmers and doing what's best for them is at the top of the president's priority list, and it's at the top of the list for this administration right now. There have been several very high-level meetings on this very topic. We want to help our farmers, and we're exploring the best ways to do that, and I would anticipate there will be more to come on that very soon.
You can send a message to the Chinese president.
Look, I just shared that message. The president wants what's best for America's farmers. Sean.
Hey, Caroline.
Hi.
2 things to ask you about.
Sure.
First thing, I want to ask about this video that the president posted the other day. It was an AI deepfake of himself talking about something called med beds. What was he trying to communicate to the public there, and why did he delete it?
I think the president saw the video and posted it, and then took it down. And he has the right to do that. It's his social media. He's incredibly transparent, as you all know. You hear from him directly on social media. He likes to share memes. He likes to share videos. He likes to repost things that he sees other people post on social media as well. And I think it's quite refreshing that we have a president who is so open and honest directly himself. Many a times on Truth, you are hearing directly from the President of the United States.
And second thing, how did the White House decide that it is appropriate for Jared Kushner to be working on matters that involve Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, 3 countries that combined have given him more than $2.5 billion for his investment firm?
I think it's, frankly, despicable that you're trying to suggest that it's inappropriate for Jared Kushner, who is widely respected around the world and has great trust in relationships with these critical partners in these countries, to strike a 20-point comprehensive detailed peace plan that no other administration would ever be able to achieve. And so Jared is donating his energy and his time to our government, to the President of the United States, to secure world peace. And that is a very noble thing. And this is a peace plan that has not just been accepted by Israel, but it has been applauded by Muslim and Arab countries around the world. It has been applauded by European leaders around the world. Virtually everyone in the world is supportive of this plan that Jared Kushner offered his time to help put together alongside our special envoy Witkoff, the Vice President, the President of the United States, Secretary Rubio, and the President's entire national security team. We are very proud of that plan, and we hope Hamas will accept it because it will lead to a more peaceful and prosperous Middle East.
Caroline. 2 questions. One, we're talking a lot about these layoffs and hypotheticals, but Speaker Johnson earlier today said that there is a proposal from the White House that House Republicans are expected to hear this afternoon about these mass layoffs. Can you tell us what is in that proposal? What agencies, what programs, what jobs?
What he's referring to is a proposal that our Office of Management and Budget Director, Russ Vought, is going to be proposing to the House Republican Conference. He's going to kind of walk them through what this unfortunately is going to look like so they can discuss it with their constituents back home in their respective districts. So I don't want to get ahead of the Office of Management and Budget, but I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that very soon. Look, we have to put a plan in place. It would be irresponsible of us not to take a look at each and every agency and get an understanding of what we're going to have to do moving forward to do the best we can in the midst of this government shutdown.
Thanks, Caroline. Just on that point, though, Russ Vought told House members, according to our notice recording, that RIFs would happen in 2 days. Already, we know that some have been sitting out from the U.S. Patent Office. So I wonder, one, this administration continues to say that they don't want to lay people off, but obviously there is a plan to lay people off. So what is your message to those people who are getting laid off? And then if the government reopens, will those RIFs reverse? Are they not permanent if the government reopens, specifically if it reopens pretty quickly?
Well, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do, and it's because the Democrats have put us into this position. If the Democrats did not vote to shut down the government, we would not be standing up here talking about layoffs today. We'd be talking about all the other news stories going on in the world in our country. We'd be talking about all of the great things that this administration is doing to uplift Americans across the country. But unfortunately, the Vice President of the United States and I have to come out here today to talk about a government shutdown that the Democrats put us in this position.
And the second question,
Thanks, Caroline. I'm just trying to clarify the timing of these potential layoffs to federal workers. You said imminent. The Vice President seemed to say in a couple of days. It looks like Russ Vought maybe said in 2 days. When would these layoffs begin?
2 days, imminent, very soon. You will expect more announcements right now.
Is it just unclear, or are you waiting?
It's not unclear. All of those things are very synonymous with one another. These RIFs are unfortunately going to happen very soon.
It'll definitely
Caroline, we've been talking about the Affordable Care Act, enhanced premium tax credits, and sort of the politics of it all, right? But this is a very real, tangible impact that American people will feel. The Kaiser Family Foundation says that with the ACA enhanced premium tax credits, without them, premiums will go up 114% on average. 19 million of the 24 million people who rely on the coverage are in states that President Trump won. Is he concerned what will happen to those families if this tax credit expires? And aside from the shutdown, is there a plan to keep those premiums down?
Look, as the Vice President just said, we are more than happy to have this conversation. The President and the Vice President and this team are more than happy to have that conversation with Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill, but it cannot happen right now. Right now, we need to reopen the United States federal government because people are going without pay. You have thousands of federal workers who have to show up to work and not get paid, and that's an unfortunate situation the Democrats have put us in. Then we can discuss this very important issue of healthcare that the President absolutely wants to fix. As I mentioned yesterday, he took... But those premiums do not expire until the end of the year. It's October 1st right now. And so we have a few months to have that conversation. And it's irresponsible of the Democrat Party to try to convince the American people that that conversation has to happen right now. No, what needs to happen right now is the reopening of the United States federal government. And then this administration will be happy to work with Democrats in good faith to come to a policy determination. But one red line the government has already made clear, this administration has already made clear, this administration is never going to support taxpayer-funded benefits going to illegal aliens. And we think it's despicable that that was one of the first proposals that Democrats put in their funding proposal, in their CR. The Republican CR was a clean CR that would keep the government open. Democrats have voted for it 13 times in the past. The Democrats put this poison pill in there, this partisan pill. Why? Because they are beholden to the far left radicals in their party. And you already see 3 moderate Democrats having the courage to say, no, we need to keep the government open, and then we can have these conversations about health care. Mary.
Caroline, I just want to circle back to something the Vice President said about Ocasio-Cortez. I'm actually surprised it didn't come up sooner. So if Schumer is catering to the demands of Ocasio-Cortez, can you share whether the White House views this as cracks in Schumer's leadership, and would the Vice President be open to meeting with someone like her if she is assuming this role in the Democratic Party?
I'll let the Vice President speak on that himself. I think that certainly Senator Schumer was not expecting 3 moderates to break with him last night. In fact, last night you heard Senator Schumer say he can't guarantee that he will be able to hold his caucus together. And so again, we encourage Democrats to have the courage to do the right thing, do what you have done 13 times previously, and vote for this clean continuing resolution to keep the government funded. As for what the Trump administration and President Trump is going to do, we'll continue to be very public that we want the government to be open, and as the Vice President said, we'll continue to work in good faith with anyone on Capitol Hill who wants to do right by the American people. Thank you all so much. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
It's genius. It's pure genius. America is the country that started the AI race. And as President of the United States, I'm here today to declare that America is going to win it. We're going to work hard. We're going to win it.
Why do so many financial experts call silver the most undervalued asset today? Because silver is essential to the future, from solar tech and electric vehicles to the explosive growth of artificial intelligence. Demand is rising fast, and yet silver is still trading at a bargain. With billions pouring into AI, silver prices have only one place to go, and that's up. In fact, silver may be the most overlooked asset class in financial planning. The opportunity for silver is well documented. The market for silver could double or even triple by 2026. You see, I believe in hard assets like this bar of silver. You can hold it in your hand, you can put it in your IRA, you can put it in your home safe, and relative to gold, it's very affordable. That's why I urge you to call my friends at Lear Capital and get their free report, The AI Revolution, and see why silver prices could be set to soar. Call 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com. But don't wait. We all know. We've seen it. The government can print lots and lots of dollars, but they can't print silver. Well, I always love these Wednesday afternoons when Karoline Leavitt hosts these press conferences, because she has a no prisoner attitude and she just puts it straight out there. So if you heard almost, I think, the last question or maybe second to last question where she actually said Russ Vought, now we know how to say his name, Russ Vought, is actually putting forth a plan to begin chopping and getting the workforce reduction put in place. Now, I'm not sure if that's messaging that she's putting out there to get the Democrats nervous, but it almost appears as though J.D. Vance and President Trump have moved on. They don't care. President Trump has been active while this press conference has been going on, and he's been putting out quite a few True Social posts. Put out this one. As I determined on September 27th when I activated and called into service the National Guard in Oregon, conditions continue to deteriorate into lawless mayhem. Our great federal law enforcement officers have not been able to enforce the laws in Oregon. Antifa and the radical left anarchists have been viciously attacking our federal law enforcement officers, men and women who are simply doing their job, protecting federal property and enforcing federal immigration laws and the rule of law. We will never allow mobs to take over our streets, burn our cities, or destroy America. The National Guard is now in place and has been dedicated to restoring law and order and ending the chaos, death, and destruction. We are a nation of law and we will prevail. Thank you for your attention to this matter. He posted it, as you can see, at 1:36. So while she was on stage, this got posted. He followed it up with this post 1 minute later. The governor of Oregon must be living in a dream world. She must be delusional. Portland is a never-ending disaster. Many people have been badly hurt and even killed. It is run like a third world country. We're only going in because as American patriots, we have no choice. Law and order must prevail in our cities and everywhere else. Whenever you're watching these press conferences and you see J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, a crazy mayor from Chicago, and the mayor of Portland and the governor of Portland, they always say everything is under control. Meanwhile, at nighttime, it looks like a war zone. Again, more Democrat lies. They just continue to just lie after lie after lie. He then followed up that post with this one. Let me go here. The soybean farmers, which was mentioned at the presser, are being hurt because China is for negotiating reasons only, not buying. We've made so much money on tariffs and we're going to take a small portion of that money and actually help the farmers. I will never let our farmers down. Sleepy Joe Biden didn't enforce our agreement with China where they were going to purchase billions of dollars of our farm product, but soybeans in particular. It's all going to work out very well. I love our patriots, and every farmer is exactly that. I'll be meeting with President Xi of China in 4 weeks, and soybeans will be a major topic of discussion. Make soybeans and other row crops great again. All right, so he's going to be meeting in 4 weeks with China. There's some news we didn't have. That's actually some pretty big news. Where do we go from here? It looks like President Trump has moved on. He understands at this point that whatever happens, happens. He can't be worried about this. And I'm pretty sure Russ Vought is doing his job. As we look into the Senate here, I can peer into it. They're just wandering around. Nothing's happening. Just...
Mr. Johnson.
Oh, they're voting. Oh, good. So they're voting on something. So let's listen and see what maybe they're trying to get it done again. I hope they don't, but let's listen in. You know, this stuff is like watching paint dry. It's like the worst thing ever. And you would think if it was so important that these people would be sitting there to do their next vote. I mean, Johnson, so she's in the J's. Why aren't they all sitting there if this is so important? Something doesn't make any sense. You say it's important, but then you don't even show up and they got to wait for you to vote. And they're walking around. And we're waiting. No urgency whatsoever. It's disgusting. So I will continue. I'll monitor that, but I'm not going to sit there and watch paint dry. That's crazy, absolutely crazy. So let's continue with what's going on here. So I got a couple of videos I want to share with you. This one was pretty interesting. This was Karoline Leavitt posted this earlier, and she was absolutely right. She's talking about humor, having fun, understanding that President Trump has a sense of humor, and they're still whining about the Mexican sombrero. Come on, are you serious? Have you never had fun? You people must be just amazing to be around in your off hours. You just complain about everything. Oh, here, she's going to give you something to complain about.
Thank you for calling the White House comment line.
Hello, America. This is White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Democrats in Congress have shut down the federal government because they care more about funding health care for illegal immigrants than they care about serving you, the American people. Until Democrats vote for the clean, Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the White House is unable to answer your call or respond to your questions. We look forward to hearing from you again very soon. And in the meantime, please know President Trump will never stop fighting for you. Thank you, and God bless you.
They can't take it. They'll be crying over that. Well, she put a video up, and it was about listening. I love it. Keep the pressure on. Make fun of these dolts. That's what I think. Now, she talks about the illegal newcomers. I'm getting closer. I want you to hear this, because something came up today where, I don't know if covertly or whatever, a lobbyist, someone who helps give people money, found out what the real problem is with the Democrats and why this love affair with the newcomers and why it's so important to them. I want you to check this out.
Wrapping up the day here at Capitol Hill, it looks like, unfortunately, I think the government is going to shut down, and a large part of that is the Democrats not happy with the Medicaid cuts that were made as part of the big, beautiful bill. And so I was talking to a few Republican members here, and I got to actually talk to Rand Paul. I actually was able to talk with him in the elevator about this issue. So I think the sticking point for Medicaid with the Democrats is, let's take California, for example. California has a high demographic of individuals that are not here legally. And prior to the expansion of health care for them, the hospitals were inundated with people they could not handle. And so when that expansion happened and immigrants who are here, undocumented immigrants that are here, were able to get insurance, all of a sudden, you then had this new kind of revenue stream that came in not only to the hospitals, but now to all these doctors and providers in California. So if this big, beautiful bill and the Medicaid mandates go into place, I think what will happen in California will be a catastrophe, because you'll have all of these individuals now that are not documented with no health insurance. So all of the providers that were making money off of this kind of like new economics in California are now not going to be making any money, and instead these individuals that are undocumented are going to have to go to the hospital for treatment, and that's going to, instead of make the hospital money because they're covered by Medicaid, it's going to create a situation where now the hospitals are losing millions of dollars. So that is what I believe the sticking point is with Medicaid with Democrats. It has to do with a situation in states like California where you have millions and millions of undocumented individuals, and if they lose insurance, not only will the providers now not make money and the hospitals are not making money, but their only course for them to get treatment is to go to the emergency room, because the hospitals absolutely have to treat anyone who goes to the ER. So now all of a sudden you're looking at a situation where the hospitals are losing billions of dollars instead of making billions of dollars by the Medicaid recipients. So that's where I think this is going, and that's kind of what I explained to Senator Rand Paul, is like, you can't look at this from a macro level. You have to look at what's happening in California to understand that Medicaid, if that goes away for the undocumented individuals in California, you're going to create a catastrophe for the hospital system.
There you go. I wanted you to hear that explained because I was looking into this, and now you absolutely know what's going to happen. They have built their economies. They have built their ability to fund so many different things, and it was all based upon the newcomers having access to various government programs. You see, if you give them SNAP, if you give them Medicaid, if you give them all these things, then they're putting the money back into those businesses that they have to go to. Hey, I need to go see an eye doctor. Eye doctor's on Medicaid. You go ahead and see the doctor. You bill the government. And so everybody associated with that business in California and in some of these blue states, everybody's getting paid on your dime. And so what's the estimate? 4, 5, 10, 20 million newcomers here in the country? All of them getting free stuff? Just don't think of the politicians at the top of this apex. It's the politicians. It's the providers. It's the workers in the office. It's the real estate person who owns the lease of the office, because now they can trickle down. They've got to enlarge because they're getting more and more people. Everybody was in on this. Everybody was in on the take, probably including some Republicans, and it's all your money. And so what we're seeing actually is that a state like California may implode if they don't have these newcomers. They will not be able to afford all the stuff that they're giving them, and it'll completely implode on itself. Just imagine that. Millions and millions and millions of people who you're paying for that are feeding all, the x-rays, the stitches, everything. All the supplies, the Band-Aids, the stuff in the beds, all of it is trickling down because this surge of patients is being paid for by you. And so everybody in the industry, everyone associated with what goes on in the hospital, the cafeteria, just think of how many people exist because of these newcomers. And so what President Trump is doing is by extracting these people and taking them off of their ability to, feed off of us, it's destroying economies. And unfortunately, that's not my problem. It's not your problem. If California thought that badly of America, that they said, here's how we're really going to make some money, it's on them at this point. I don't worry about it. Dems shut down the government every year, so why are they so upset? Yeah. Yep, those babies, the birthrights, exactly, that's what you're talking about. We taxpayers are funding. Kelly's like mean faces. Yeah. It's been happening for 20 years. They're just running out of money. Now understand, I am not saying this is a new problem. I mean, Mr. Iraqi, I don't say this is new. I'm saying that you got a president now who's like, I'm done. We're not going to do it anymore. That's why people are reacting the way that they are. Hey, this is how we've always done it. New York State is doing this as well. Yep, exactly. Socialized medicine doesn't work. Go vote for it in New York City. It's why? Where's this? This is a good point. Why are they all so sick? They're probably not. That might be part of the scam as well. Hey, we need you to go to the hospital or whatever twice a month just so that they can get billed. I don't know. How many fake illnesses are there? I don't know. And, wait a minute, we got something going on. Did it just get defeated again?
Cloture motion, we the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on Executive Calendar Number 2, SRES 412, an executive resolution authorizing the en bloc consideration and executive session of certain nominations on the executive calendar, signed by 17 senators.
Under the previous order, the mandatory quorum call under Rule 22 has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that debate on SRES 412, an executive resolution authorizing the en bloc consideration executive session of certain nominations on the executive calendar shall be brought to a close. The yeas and nays are mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsterbrooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso. Okay, got you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Collins, she's waving at me. She really wants.
Yep, got.
Young guy.
McCormick. Thank you. Thank you.
Cotton, aye.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Corono. Hassan, Smith, Sanders, Kelly. Thank you. Coons. I got you. Hassan, Miss Alsterbrooks. Thank you. I got you. I got you. Gallego. I got you. Thank you. Kennedy. I got you.
So as you can see, well, you may have heard, this is for bringing up another nomination. So they've moved on as well. And as you can see, after they're voting, they're taking off. So there's not going to be another vote about reopening the government anytime soon. This is something else. So I'm not going to sit here and wait for them watching molasses. Maybe by the time we do tonight's show, we'll see that. But I do want you to see this interview that Mike Johnson just gave a little while ago at 12 o'clock with Dana Bash on CNN.
Joining me now is a key player in all of this, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Thank you so much for coming in. It's nice to see you in person. You have said, quote, there is literally nothing to negotiate. There's nothing I can do. You are the Speaker of the House. There is, in fact, a lot you can do.
Well, there's not, actually. Let me explain that. As you noted, they're voting right now on the Senate floor. We'll see how that turns out. Last night, two Democrats and an independent flipped and came along with the Republicans. But it looks like, and what we expect, is that most of the Democrats in the Senate, again, will reject the clean CR that we sent over. It's clean. What that means is it's nonpartisan. We didn't add any Republican priorities or poison pills or gimmicks or tricks into that at all. It's 24 pages. I mean, everybody can read it for themselves. It simply continues the Biden-era spending levels that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have already supported in the past. They just did it most recently in March. And he gave long speeches about how it was so critically important that we not shut the government down. There's nothing for me to give. There's nothing to negotiate. I don't have any Republican priorities to put on the table because we sent over a clean CR. And that's why none of this makes sense.
Okay, so the Democrats argue that it's priorities, yes, that are maybe their policy priorities, but they also should be the priorities for people in your district and in Republican districts across the country, the biggest of which they argue is extending the subsidies for people who can't afford Obamacare to be able to afford Obamacare. I understand that they don't expire until the end of the calendar year.
Right.
The argument that they make is that insurance companies start to make a plan like soon. And so by the time they make that plan, the subsidies will expire. Isn't there something to that?
No, that's a December policy issue. It's going to take
But
many,
insurance
many
companies
months
have to make their decisions well before December.
The benefits do not expire until December 31, and insurance companies can make different decisions, okay? There's plenty of time on the clock. That's an eternity, as you know, in legislative terms, to have 3 months ahead of us to do that. The reason we put a simple 7-week extension of government funding is to allow for all that debate. The month of October is going to be very important for us to determine all these things and to have a bipartisan discussion and deliberation over that. But we have to have the lights on in the building to do it. The first and most important function of Congress is to keep the government in operation. Every Democrat who's voting no today has said that many times. We're playing the highlight reel. Just listen to what Chuck Schumer himself has said until today.
I just want to be clear. You are saying hard line, red line, you will not negotiate on anything until the government is reopened?
Chuck Schumer was in the Oval Office with me, 48 hours ago. We were there. The president, as a strong leader, he brought all of us in, all four leaders, Thune and Schumer and myself and Hakeem Jeffries. And the president said, make your case. What is it you want? And Chuck Schumer repeated in that meeting what he put on paper. The counter proposal that he filed, everyone can go read it for themselves, would add $1.5 trillion in new spending on a 7-week stopgap measure. We're not doing that. He wants to give health care to illegal aliens again. We're not doing that. He wanted to claw back $50 billion that our Republican Big Beautiful Bill put in to prop up rural hospitals. Now, people say, why would he do that? I thought he was for health care. Well, a lot of those rural hospitals, most of them are in red states. So I don't know. I don't know what his motivation is, but we can't do it.
You had a very spirited discussion with my friend and colleague Caitlin Collins about illegal immigrants getting health care. I don't want to repeat that. If you want to see it, you can look on YouTube. I just want to say, for the record, that right now the law of the land is explicitly that illegal immigrants do not get health care.
That's correct, because we added that in the law. It got signed into law July 4th. That was the Republicans' Big Beautiful Bill. Chuck Schumer's proposal is to repeal that.
Okay,
Go look at page 57 of the bill that he filed.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have your people printed something out for me. So let's just kind of finish this, and then I want to ask you about other things.
Sure.
If Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries came to you and said, what you interpret as giving illegal immigrants health care is off the table, would you reopen the government?
Well, no, because he's put all sorts of other things.
Okay, so let's talk about the other things. Let's talk about the other things. So you mentioned $1.5 trillion. $1 trillion of that is to reverse Medicaid cuts that you put in the Big Beautiful Bill.
Medicaid reforms, not cuts.
Well,
now don't take my word for it.
It's less spending.
Don't take my word for it.
You can call it what you want.
The CBO, Congressional Budget Office, which everybody cites and CNN does all the time as the neutral arbiter of all these things, they came out with a report on August 25th, just several weeks back, and they said, you know what happened in that Big Beautiful Bill, this is what we project. It's going to save Medicaid. It's going to strengthen Medicaid. Why? Because they CBO, not Republicans, CBO said 2.3 million improper enrollments are involved in Medicaid right now. What is that? Illegal aliens, young able-bodied men without dependents who are riding the wagon and should be working instead. Our legislation strengthens Medicaid because we kick those people off. They were not entitled. Medicaid is intended for U.S. citizens who are young, pregnant women, disabled, or elderly, not these other categories.
But once this goes into effect, which is after the midterms, people will feel cuts who are not necessarily...
Yeah, those young able-bodied men who are sitting at home playing video games? That's a big portion of it.
Not just them.
Look at the studies. Look at the studies.
But when you see the $1 trillion that they do want to put back into this, you don't think that what they are doing is politically palpable for even a lot of people in your district?
No, there's one reason and one reason alone that they're making this argument.
They will see cuts to Medicaid.
Here's the motivation. Let's just cut to the chase. Chuck Schumer is doing this. The reason he switched his position that he's had for 30 years right now and doing the exact opposite that he said in March of this year, as recently as March, is because he is in political jeopardy. He's afraid he's going to get a challenge from his left flank, and AOC or someone else will run against him for his Senate seat. So Chuck Schumer has to put up a fight and pretend that he's fighting the president, fighting Republicans.
I've been in this town maybe even longer than you, and so I've seen politics played on all kinds of things.
That's fair, but I'm telling you what's happening right now.
I want to talk about something you said this morning about Chuck Schumer. You said Schumer has now handed the keys to the kingdom to the executive branch, and that a shutdown can provide an opportunity to, quote, downsize the government. I just want to be clear. Do you think that the OMB, the executive branch, should use this shutdown as an excuse to permanently fire federal workers?
Well, I can tell you right now, the president has been a benevolent president. He is mitigating the harm right now. OMB has not come out of the blocks and fired a bunch of people. That's not what's happening.
But do you think they should?
Well, it provides an opportunity. Chuck Schumer has provided the Trump White House with an opportunity to downsize the government on priorities and policies and personnel that they deem to be non-essential. Now, Chuck Schumer has very different priorities about federal government than
What's your priority?
Republicans.
You're the Speaker of the House. You can say...
I love how she's freaking out here. She's trying to carry their water, but she's not getting the answer she wants. And he's like, yeah, that may happen. Hey, that's what happens. You lost. Elections have consequences. There's no amount of crying and whining and bitching and kvetching that you can do to change this. Nothing whatsoever. So deal with it, Dana.
Only want to downsize the size and scope of
So
the federal
you think
government.
that the people who are maybe furloughed right now, or even working without pay, should be on the chopping block for permanent dismissal?
I wouldn't say that, because the people that are furloughed right now are hardworking American
So
federal workers.
who should be fired during the shutdown?
I don't know. You'd have to show me a proposal of what is being presented.
I don't have a proposal.
I
I'm
don't have it
asking you.
either, but I have a conference call with Russ Vought at OMB in about 2 hours, and we're going to ask him about the details of that. But I'll tell you right now.
So this is happening.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to find out what his
Yeah.
plans are. But I will tell you this. Right now, who's being harmed are women, infants, and children. Their nutrition program is stalled. Veterans who are not getting their services right now. Suicide prevention, that's a day-to-day thing.
No question.
They're
I
unfunded.
mean, it's horrible.
FEMA's
And
not funded
it's
right
horrible.
now for insurance
That is
policies.
temporary. So I just, you're going to talk to Russ Vought, and obviously we're going to ask what happens after that. But last week, he sent a memo directing agencies to start drafting plans
Yeah, that's
to
his
do
job.
just this.
So when
I know,
you're
but
the director,
but you have a point of view. Can you, on that phone call, say with him, please don't do this. This is not appropriate?
No, because look,
Please don't fire all these people. Shut up. Oh my gosh, think about what she's saying. She's talking to the Speaker of their House, and she's like, can you do something? Instead of talking to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and telling them to get off their ass and make something happen, she's begging the Speaker of the House to tell Russ Vought, please don't fire all these people. You wouldn't have to be begging if the people down the hall were talking to your Democrat friends and told them, don't do this. If you do this, you could be screwed. You could absolutely be screwed. You're going to put all these people's necks inside the guillotine. You're doing it yourself. And now the next day, she resorts to having to beg for mercy.
if Russ Vought has to make tough decisions. Whoever is the director of the Office of Management and Budget in a scenario like this has to make tough choices. They have to decide. They're tasked under law. They must decide what are essential services and what are not. What are policies and proposals that are
It's usually temporary
priorities.
under a shutdown. We're talking about permanently firing people.
Well, I'm not sure that hasn't happened before, but if the authority is there and he sees a program that is wasting taxpayer dollars, you and I could both agree the government doesn't do everything in the most efficient
Isn't
manner.
that constitutionally, that's your job. Article 1, that is your job.
It is until Chuck Schumer decides to hand the keys to the president, which is literally what he's doing. If he makes the decision to
You see that? She's got just enough information to hang herself. It's your job. It was. It was until Chuck Schumer shut the government down. Now you gave the keys to the castle to Russ Vought. And Russ is going to use it as much as the president allows him to. I don't understand why she doesn't understand this.
Federal government down. He's shutting down the legislative branch, and he is giving the authority to the executive. That's how the system works, and he's made that decision. So is it foolhardy for him to do so? Of course it is. Could it backfire fantastically? Yes.
I'm a little surprised that you are okay with that.
No, it's part of our system, Dan. It's part of our constitutional system. The president and his team are tasked
There's nothing in the
with
Constitution that says if there's a shutdown.
No, it's not. No, because the founders couldn't have foreseen such a foolish thing that's happening right now.
Yeah.
They would understand, and they implied what Congress's first role is to make sure the government operates, right? But in a scenario like this, if the Congress's hands are tied by the minority party who will not do the right thing, then the power shifts to the executive. That's not Mike Johnson doing that. That's Chuck Schumer doing that.
I want to shift gears.
You can't cause a fight, then when you lose the fight, beg the person who beat you to, don't keep beating me. Those negotiations, as per se, as they've been saying, we're negotiating, that's what they should have done beforehand. This is what you should have been accepting and realizing. If we don't keep this thing open, we're going to put a whole bunch, like 100,000 people at risk here. Maybe you might want to have thought of that beforehand.
Kevin Fry on Capitol Hill, where House Republicans are about to hear from Budget Director Russ Vought. Kevin, what more do we know about this meeting and what it might mean for the shutdown fight?
Right. I mean, this is essentially, presumably, kind of a conference call on exactly what the next steps are in terms of the White House's approach to all of this. I mean, some of this has already been signaled publicly, of course. The OMB releasing that memo just a few days ago, signaling that they're going to go further than just furloughing folks, but actually terminating their jobs. Perhaps we'll get some more details coming out of this call on that. This also, though, comes as Vought just today announced that he is freezing, the federal government, the Trump administration is freezing about $18 billion for major infrastructure projects in New York. Of course, the home state of Congressman Jeffries and Senator Schumer, the top two Democrats here on Capitol Hill, for such big projects as this tunnel under the Hudson River. That has been blasted by Democrats already as essentially mafiosa tactics. And one senator telling reporters today that he believes this should stiffen the spine of Democrats as this shutdown battle now gets into full swing. In terms of what leadership is saying, it's quite frankly the same talking points we've been hearing for some time now. Their lines in the sand are being drawn. Take a listen.
Democrats want to avert this crisis, but Republicans tried to bully us.
Well, you got bullied then. Admit it. Look in the mirror, pull on your big boy pants, and realize you got your butt kicked. I don't want to hear any whining. I don't want to hear any problems about what's going to happen with Russ Vought. He is swinging the axe. Earlier, I told you, I showed you this, that right off the bat, $18 billion in infrastructure projects have been put on hold to ensure funding is not flowing based on unconstitutional DEI principles. Then, that was at, looks like 9:54 a.m. Now, just a second ago, actually 2:09, nearly $8 billion in green new scam funding to fuel the left's climate agenda is now canceled. More info to come. The projects are in the states: California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, all of which I'm pretty sure are blue states. Just make sure. Yeah, all the blue states. Another $8 billion. So it's only 2:35, and Russ is at it right now, and he's cut $26 billion. He's just getting started. Let me just go ahead and get this stuff ready. $26 billion in less than 2 hours. Woo! I've been following him. I bet you he's the most followed person on X right now. By the way, if you want to follow him right there, go to Russ Vought, VOUGHT, and his handle is the same as his name, Russ Vought, VOUGHT. And you'll be able to see. Wait a minute, he just posted again. The White House memo says Democrats' plan could spend $200 billion on health care for newcomers, and so he's been outlining which projects he's been chopping. So the one that was for $18 billion is specifically the Hudson Tunnel project and 2nd Avenue subway project. So he's methodically getting some information saying, take that one down, and he's cutting as we go. $26 billion thus far, and it's only 2:30. Wow. You gotta love that. You have to love that. Man, they're in such a big problem right now. I don't think they understand how bad they screwed up. You've allowed somebody who's just a bureaucrat. I mean, he's a Trump guy, but now he's swinging an axe that you can't stop. They're going to have to sue over everything. But in the meantime, choppity chop, 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 chop. Let me just tell you guys real quick about Chapter. If you guys are my age or getting there, about there, you may be interested in Chapter. And for the fanfare audience and you guys watching, I'm sure you're well aware it's Medicare annual enrollment time. It's October. It's time to get enrolled in something. And as a newly minted 65-year-old myself, that means I'm getting buried under the same spam calls and junk mail that you are. What a nightmare. I have also learned that Medicare plans change every single year. Apparently, some even disappear and go away. So for those of us that love our plans today, it might not be the best one for 2026. And if you don't double check, you could lose coverage for doctors or prescriptions that you count on. And to make matters worse, most Medicare agents aren't just pushing the plans that pay them the biggest commissions. That's why I recommend Chapter for the fanfare audience. They check every single plan in America to make sure you get the best deal, not just the one that pays the most commissions. On average, they can save people $1,100 a year. On the flip side, If saving money isn't the most important, but you still want like a Cadillac coverage, they'll find that for you as well. They made it dead simple. They'll review all your options in under 20 minutes. One free 20-minute phone call. If you're already on the right plan, then you're done. There's nothing for you to do. If not, they'll help you switch. You get some peace of mind during this enrollment period. Call Chapter at 475-328-3545 and make sure you're all set heading into 2026. Chapter, thanks guys. They really helped me out. I didn't know all this stuff was coming. Didn't know anything about it. And then I had to figure it out. So let's take some comments here real quick before we go, because I have an appointment at 3 o'clock, 3:30. Call me a bully if it makes you feel better. No money for Democrats. Yeah, I'm here for that. Homeland Security just posted a cryptic message. Now arrives the hour of action. Let me find that. That's interesting. Homeland Security. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this is very interesting. Now arrives the hour of action. And what does that mean? Very interesting. Very cryptic indeed. I'm not sure what it means. I'm not sure who they're talking to, but obviously there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. Let me see here. I did Medicare myself online. It was tedious, but not difficult. You can do that. I received an email saying that my X was suspended. I hadn't been on it. They wanted my driver's license to appeal. I didn't. That doesn't sound legit. Reach out to support there. All right, hold on. Let me check this out real quick. Justin, many Democrats are now furious with Indian-born. Oh, that guy for admitting they shut down the government on purpose, openly and blatantly. Yeah, he made a video and put that out there. What an idiot. Barry, post that comment from Trump. Which one are you referring to? It might be this one. This President Trump just put this out about 30 minutes ago, and this is probably in relation to Lisa Cook. He says, I really believe that Jerome Too Late Powell is an obstructionist. If you guys hadn't heard at this point, the Supreme Court agreed to take up the Lisa Cook firing, but not until January. So they're basically going to let her sit there for October, November, December, and then they'll do it in January. I guess they didn't find it to be enough of an emergency, but he's still going after Jerome Powell. So I think that was the one you were speaking about. Very interesting. But you guys need to follow Russ Vought, because there's going to be some stuff happening. Let me just look around here. Making sure as if there's anything, I don't want to miss anything before we leave. I'll catch it tonight, whatever it is. I'm sure there'll be some good stuff for us to take a look at this evening. I want to see Jeffries in a Maxine Waters wig. Yeah, exactly. Trump the troll, the meeting with Schumer in the Oval Office with Trump 2028 hats. That was indeed awesome. All right, let me consider what's going to... So my Social Security check is in my bank account today. Great. Now, hey, Tommy, how are you doing? Now the president decides, King Trump, who you created with your foolishness, childish, and phony empathy, because all you want the money, show them the money or shut it down, because we're supposedly a bunch of bullies now. Yeah, exactly. All right, so I've got an appointment, so I've got to go, but I'll be opening up the other studio tonight and doing a night show, and hopefully I'll have a bunch of information for you and see where we are with everything. I had like 35 minutes worth of video I still had to show you, but we're already at 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I got to run. I guess my wife just got here. All right, so let me do super chats. Oz, charity begins at home first. Exactly. Go Red. As again, is Chuck Schumer on Jeffrey Epstein's top list? This will shut him. Don't know. Cutting edge. They use that health gate to welfare for Islamic women. I know that because they claim to get the money. The husband left forever, but only one man can have 4 women. Imagine that money. I am Planet Hermit. No pain here. Nope. Tinley YT. Imagine getting offended by a sombrero meme when they made the taco meme about Trump 5 months ago. Yes, I do remember that. In addition to all that, imagine getting mad over a meme, but laughing and applauding somebody dying. Remember, we're only a couple weeks away from what happened to Charlie Kirk. And you remember, all over the internet, there were people making videos. They were all happy and everything over a man losing his life, his children losing their father, and the wife losing her husband. That was okay. That was real life. But now they're all upset because of a meme. They're offended over a meme. Tell me how that makes any sense whatsoever. I can't help you. Can't at all help you. What else we did I go to the top here? Yeah, I went to the top. Buddy Sanders. Remember Schumer insulting Oliver North in the 80s. They forget everything that they do. As long as they can do it, there's no problem. They don't care whatsoever. And it's disgusting, and it just tells you the type of people they are, and you should never forget that because they suck. They absolutely suck. All right, let me just tell you about Crypto.com, and then I will break and see you guys tonight. All right, so I want you guys to check this out. This is Crypto.com. Let's be clear here. Cryptocurrency is no longer an emerging asset. It's here, and the latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com. That's the world's top crypto platform. And if you go down here, you're going to see they dropped the news right there for you to see it. I actually got an email detailing the entire thing from, what's the guy's name? Devin Nunes. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in Crow, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there. So if you want in on the action, first thing I would have you do is go to Crypto.com, take a look at this, click on where it says either tap for more information, or if you choose, you can grab some right there on the Crypto.com website. So let's make crypto great again. So all you got to do is go to Crypto.com. Again, you don't need to listen to me. It's right there. You're going to see all the information. Just go ahead and tap that, or go ahead and buy if you're informed. Don't ever buy anything if you're not informed. You got to do your homework first. Never just do something that people say, hey, have you checked this out? You got to dig in and then decide what you're going to do. All right, everybody, I will see you guys tonight. I was interested, I guess I should have put up a poll. We went late last night because we're waiting to see if they were going to vote this thing in or was it going to actually shut down. And so I didn't even go on until 8:30, which I'm happy. There was 80-something thousand views we got on that live stream. So maybe that would make it a bit better. It gives me time in the day to do things if we pushed it back to like an 8 o'clock show. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if 8:30 are okay with you. That's might be the way I go. All right, talk to you guys later on.